Hello guys, on Voice of Betrayal, where every lie has a voice. I don't really know where to begin. Maybe the start is the only place that makes sense. My name's Adam. I'm 33 years old, and until recently, I thought I had it all figured out. I had a wife I loved, a little daughter, a house we could call ours. But now I'm sitting here in the dim light of my living room, telling strangers on the internet how everything fell apart. I met Anna in Poland when I was 18. She was 22, a little older, a little wiser, or at least that's what I thought back then. We weren't perfect, not by a long shot. We fought, we made up, we broke up, we came back together. But every single time, no matter how bad it got, something in my chest told me, she's the one. Don't let go. When I decided to move to the UK, it wasn't just about me. I wanted a better life for both of us. More opportunities, more money, maybe even a family one day. She agreed to join me after I got settled. That year and a half we spent apart was strange. We weren't married yet, but we talked like we would be. I worked long hours in warehouses, saved every penny I could. I pictured the day she'd step off the bus, and I'd be there with a car, with a home, ready for her. I thought about the smell of her hair when I'd hug her again. The way she'd smile when she saw the life I'd built for us. And then, one rainy afternoon, she arrived. I can still remember it, her suitcase wheels clattering on the pavement, her hair sticking to her face from the drizzle. She looked tired, but when she saw me, she ran into my arms. For a moment, it felt like all that time apart had been worth it. The first few months were good. We got a small rental house, bought an old Ford that smelled faintly of cigarettes, and made plans for the future. We talked about kids, holidays, everything. But then, there was that morning. It was early, too early. The kind of quiet where the whole house still feels asleep. I got up for work, still half dreaming, and saw her phone light up on the nightstand. The message just said, "Hi honey." I don't know why I did it. I had never, ever checked her phone before. But that morning, I picked it up. My hands felt cold, even though the room was warm. The chat was with a guy from her old job back in Poland. The messages weren't exactly explicit. But they were wrong. He asked what she was wearing. She told him not to text her so early because her husband might see. And all those little, "Hi honey, how are you" messages. Too familiar. Too intimate. When she woke up, I told her straight out. "I saw your messages." Her face barely changed. She just shrugged and said, "He's just a friend. That's how we talk. You're overreacting." But I wasn't overreacting. I could feel it in my gut, this wasn't innocent. Still, she denied it over and over, even years later when I'd bring it up. Every time, she'd get defensive, almost angry. "What do you think I am? You think I'd cheat on you? It was just a friend." I didn't believe her, not really. But I also didn't want to lose her. So I swallowed it. I told myself maybe I was wrong. Life went on. We worked hard, saved, and eventually bought a small house with a mortgage. Not long after, our daughter was born. And for a while, I thought maybe we were happy again. Our daughter was born in the middle of winter. It had snowed the night before, the streets outside the hospital were buried in white, and the whole city seemed quieter, like it was holding its breath just for her arrival. I remember holding her for the first time. She was so small, her head barely filling my palm. Her eyes were closed, and her breathing was soft, almost fragile. I whispered to her, "I'm your dad," like she needed to know right away. Those first months were exhausting, but they were the happiest I'd ever been. I would wake up at night just to check she was breathing. I'd watch Anna rock her to sleep, humming softly, and I'd think, this is it. This is the life I worked for. But life has a way of testing you. When our daughter was barely a year old, my back started giving me trouble. At first, I thought it was just from long shifts at work. But the pain didn't go away. It got worse. Some mornings, I could barely bend over to tie my shoes. Doctors ran tests, and eventually they told me, ankylosing spondylitis. A fancy name for something simple and cruel. My spine was slowly fusing together, and there was no cure. The pain would be with me every day, some days worse than others. At first, Anna was supportive. She'd help me out of bed on bad mornings, handle more of the housework, take our daughter out when I needed to rest. But over time, I could see the change in her eyes. The sighs when I asked for help. The way she'd look at me when I was too stiff to play on the floor with our little girl. I told myself it was just stress. That she was tired, like I was tired. But deep down, I was afraid. Afraid that I was becoming a burden. And then, it happened again. It was about 3 years ago. I was on the couch, my daughter asleep on my chest, when her phone buzzed on the coffee table. She was in the shower. I didn't even mean to look, but the preview on the screen was impossible to ignore. It was a message from some guy at her work. "I miss you," it read. Something inside me just froze. I opened the chat. There were messages about meeting at a hotel. About how they couldn't wait to see each other again. Nothing left to interpretation. When I confronted her, she laughed. She actually laughed. It's just how I talk to guys. I was being stupid. It doesn't mean anything. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to. Because what's the alternative? Leaving. Breaking our daughter's home apart. So I stayed. I told myself it was just a mistake. That she was still my wife, that she still loved me. I convinced myself forgiveness was the right thing. But something had shifted. I began to check her phone regularly. Not because I wanted to, because I had to. It was like living in a house where you're always checking the locks, always looking over your shoulder, waiting for the next break-in. For a while, nothing happened. She worked, I worked, our daughter grew, and life felt almost normal again. But that's the thing about trust: once it's broken, even the quiet moments feel suspicious. And I think, deep down, she knew I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. For a while after the second incident, things were quiet. Too quiet, maybe. We'd fallen into a routine. Work, childcare, house chores. There were still moments where we'd laugh together, like nothing had happened. But I noticed little things. She stopped reaching for my hand when we walked together. She stopped leaning against me on the couch. Her phone, always in her hand, always face down when she set it on the table. I'd come home from work, and she'd be on the sofa, scrolling. When I asked what she was doing, she'd smile just enough to make me feel paranoid, and say, nothing. That's the thing about living with suspicion. It eats you alive in small bites. Then I noticed something new. She was deleting messages. Not the whole conversations, just bits and pieces, like she was editing a story before I could read it. I'd ask, "Who are you texting?" and she'd roll her eyes, like I was the unreasonable one. "You really need to stop," she'd say. "I can't live with you policing me all the time." I wanted to believe maybe I was overreacting. But my gut has never been wrong. About 5 weeks ago, I decided to try something different. Not to catch her, at least that's what I told myself, but to see if we were even salvageable. We'd been arguing a lot. The kind of arguments that start over nothing and spiral into, maybe we're just not good for each other. One night, after our daughter was asleep, I sat at the kitchen table and said, "Maybe we should just see other people. And then get a divorce. I don't know how much longer we can live like this." She stared at me for a long time. No shock. No anger. Just stillness. In that moment, I knew. I knew she was already seeing someone. A week later, my suspicion was confirmed. It was a Sunday morning. She was in the shower. Her phone was on the bed, and I saw the name flash across the screen: Mark, work. Mark wasn't just a coworker. He was her boss. 60 years old. Married, with 2 kids. I opened the chat. They weren't just flirting, they were planning a future together. Dinners. Hotel nights. Little fantasies about our life once they could be together. And the sexting. God, the sexting. It was like reading something meant to destroy me. I sat there, phone in my hand, feeling like I'd been punched in the chest. My hands were shaking, but my mind was weirdly calm. When she came out of the shower, I didn't even yell. I just said, I know. She froze for a second, then her face hardened. You've been spying on me again. Don't turn this on me, Anna, I said. But she did. She blamed me for everything, my illness, my suspicions, our arguments. She said I'd pushed her away, that Mark understood her in a way I never could. And then, in the middle of one of our worst arguments, I went back to the first time. That message from Poland, 8 years ago. I asked her, one last time. Did anything happen with him? She looked away. And then she said it. We kissed. A few times. And we touched. It felt like my heart stopped. 8 years of denial, and just like that, she dropped it into my lap like it was nothing. And then it hit me, all 3 men were married. All with children. Every single one. I wasn't just losing my wife. I'd been living with someone who'd been betraying me, repeatedly, for almost a decade. After that night, something inside me broke. Not in an explosive way, more like a chair leg finally snapping after years of strain. You hear the crack, and then it just can't hold any weight anymore. We stopped pretending. There were no more, "How was your day?" moments, no more family dinners at the table. We were just 2 strangers coexisting in the same house because of a mortgage and a little girl who didn't deserve any of this. One evening, after our daughter went to bed, I asked her straight. So, that's it. You're done with me. She didn't even hesitate. Yes. I don't love you anymore. I haven't for a long time. It's strange, I prepared myself to hear those words for years, but when she finally said them, it still felt like a blade between my ribs. We talked about divorce. Or rather, I tried to. She was cold, businesslike, as if she were discussing selling a car. We'll do joint custody, she said. I'll stay in the house for now. You can see her on weekends. Just like that, my role as a husband was erased, and my role as a father was being scheduled into a calendar. Over the next few days, I found myself going through the motions. I'd get up, make breakfast for my daughter, take her to school, and then sit in the car for 10 minutes before starting the engine, just staring at the steering wheel, wondering how the hell I'd gotten here. I kept circling back to the same thought, I still love her. And that's the worst part. She betrayed me with 3 different men over 8 years, lied to my face, blamed me for her choices, and yet my heart hadn't caught up to my head. Some nights, I'd lie in bed and think about the first time I saw her smile. How she'd laugh at my stupid jokes. How we used to sit in our first tiny flat eating takeaway on the floor because we couldn't afford a table. Those memories feel like another lifetime now, but they still have power over me. One night, we had one last argument, one of those low, bitter ones when the words aren't shouted, but whispered like poison. I told her, "You didn't just break our marriage, Anna. You broke me." She didn't respond. She just walked past me and closed the bedroom door. That was the moment I realized she was already gone. Not just now, but for years. Maybe since the first message from Poland. Now, we're in the process of separating everything, the finances, the schedules, the lives we built. I'm trying to focus on the practical, selling the house, arranging custody, keeping my job steady. But every quiet moment feels dangerous, because that's when the memories creep in. I keep asking myself, was I such a bad husband? Did my illness make me unbearable? Did I somehow deserve this? I know the logical answer is no. But love doesn't listen to logic. And that's the cruelest part of it all, she's free, and I'm still in love with her. The house is quieter now. Too quiet. There's no clatter of her coffee mug in the morning, no sound of her hairdryer humming through the walls. Just the hum of the fridge, the ticking of the kitchen clock, and my own breathing. Our daughter still lives here half the time. When she's around, the place feels alive. Her little footsteps racing down the hallway, her giggles echoing off the walls, those are the moments I live for now. But when she's gone, it's like the air itself feels heavier. I walk through the rooms and see ghosts, not the scary kind, but the kind that smile at you from an old life you can't get back. I see us unpacking boxes in this kitchen for the first time. I see her falling asleep on my shoulder during a rainy Sunday movie. I see the woman I loved, not the one who destroyed us. The divorce papers are almost ready. We've agreed on joint custody, and I've agreed to let her stay in the house for now. Not because she deserves it, but because my daughter deserves stability. I can't rip that away from her, even if it means I'm the one who has to start over from scratch. Sometimes people online tell me I should take revenge. Expose her to her boss's wife, tell the other betrayed husbands. And I've thought about it. God, I've thought about it. But the truth is, nothing I could do would make her feel what I'm feeling right now. She's already moved on. She's probably happy. And me? I'm here, trying to rebuild a man I don't even recognize anymore. I've started writing in a journal. Just small things, what I did that day, what I felt, what I wish I'd said. Some pages are angry. Some are full of memories I wish I could burn. Some are just blank, because some days I can't find the words at all. A friend told me the other day, time will heal you. I nodded. But healing isn't the same as going back to who you were. You don't get that person back. You just become someone else. The hardest part isn't losing her. It's realizing she was gone long before I knew. That I spent years loving a memory, not the person standing in front of me. Last night, my daughter crawled into my bed because she had a nightmare. She curled up against me, her tiny hand resting on my chest, and within minutes, she was asleep again. I lay there in the dark, listening to her soft breathing, and I realized, this is why I'm still here. Not for Anna. Not for the marriage. For her. For the little girl who still looks at me like I'm her whole world. Because in the end, she's the only thing that matters. And maybe that's enough. It's been 6 months since Anna left. At first, I counted the days like a prisoner marking lines on a wall. 1 week without her. 2 weeks without her. The first month without hearing her footsteps in the hallway. The first birthday of our daughter we celebrated apart. But somewhere along the way, I stopped counting. Not because it stopped hurting, but because the pain became part of the background noise of my life. Like the hum of traffic outside the window, always there, but easier to ignore when you keep yourself busy. I've moved into a small flat. It's not much, second-hand furniture, bare walls, the kind of place where you still have boxes you haven't unpacked because you don't really know if you're staying. But it's mine. And on the weeks when my daughter stays with me, it becomes a home. We have our own little rituals now. Friday night is pizza and cartoons night. Saturday mornings, we go to the park, even if it's raining. I push her on the swings until she's laughing so hard she can't catch her breath. And for a little while, I forget about everything else. But there are still moments when the past grabs me. A song comes on the radio, and suddenly I'm back in the car with Anna, windows down, singing along like idiots. Or I catch the scent of her perfume on someone passing me in the street, and for a split second, my chest tightens before my mind catches up. I've started therapy. Not because I think there's a magic fix, but because I need someone to help me make sense of it all. Someone to tell me that loving the person who hurt you doesn't make you weak, it just makes you human. People say, you'll find someone else. Maybe I will. Maybe I won't. I'm not in a rush. Right now, I'm learning how to be alone without being lonely. One thing I've realized, I can't change what happened. I can't rewrite those years, erase the messages, undo the hotel plans, take back the trust one gave so freely. But I can decide what I do with the years ahead. I'm not there yet. But I'm walking toward it. Some days, I still wake up and reach for her without thinking. But more and more, I wake up and think about my daughter instead, about the life I want to give her, about the man I want her to see when she looks at me. Because if I can be that man, maybe this whole nightmare won't define me forever. Maybe it's just the first chapter of something better.